If you are not legally protected in your business, you are leaving money on the table. Hey, I get it. The legal side of business can feel intimidating, but the good news is it doesn't have to be. If you want to build your business on a strong foundation, and if you want to know that your rights are protected when the unexpected happens with a client or a customer, then it's time to get legally protected. This means no more using free contracts that you downloaded off of the internet. This means partnering with a law firm that actually believes in your vision and can help you achieve it. This means legally protecting your brand so that no one can steal your good ideas. There are a lot of ways to grow and scale, but if you want to grow a strong business, it's time to get legally protected. If you're listening and resonating with this, then my signature service, the Legal Upgrade, just might be perfect for you. The Legal Upgrade is a straightforward, structured process to give your business the legal protection that it needs to thrive. Click the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me today. Hello and welcome to the Legal Upgrade Podcast. I'm your host, licensed attorney Christian Hammond. This podcast breaks down the legal side of business to reveal key legal strategies that can help you take your business to the next level. Please note that none of the following is legal, tax, investment, financial, or medical advice. Without further ado, let's get into the show. Today, I'm going to do something I have not done before, which is tell the Bevel Law story, which is a story of how and why I left a job where I was making $200,000 a year to start my own law firm. If you are new here, hello, welcome. My name is Christian Hammond. I am the owner and founder of Bevel Law, and I'm a licensed attorney based in Washington, D.C. I specialize in trademark law, helping my clients to get trademarked, to legally protect their brand, and to legally protect the business that they are building. And like I said, I'm going to do something that I've never done before, which is tell the Bevel Law story about what it was like leaving my corporate law job to come start a law firm and why I did that and what it means for the clients that I serve today. And I'm going to tell this story centered around 5 things that changed the trajectory of my life. And the first thing that drastically shifted the trajectory of my life was when my parents decided to move my brother and I from Los Angeles, California to Northern Virginia. So I was born in Los Angeles, but I am 110% East Coast because I grew up in Virginia and I went to school in Connecticut and then Massachusetts. But that decision to move from LA to Virginia really changed the course of my life. And my parents did it partially to be closer to family because my mom's family is based in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. But I think they also did it because they were looking for an environment for my brother and I that would be different from what we had left in Los Angeles. And so they chose Northern Virginia because I think that they felt that it was going to be safer, that it didn't have the gang issues that Los Angeles had, at least at the time, and that it would have a good school system for my brother and I. So we left Los Angeles and my parents chose to settle in Northern Virginia, which gave us a lot of the privileges that I just mentioned. So that choice was in many ways a good choice. Like I said, it gave us a lot of privileges, but what it did not give us was diversity. And so if you were to visit Northern Virginia today, you'd probably walk away with the impression that's actually pretty diverse. But at the time that I was growing up in Northern Virginia, that was not the case. And what I remember is that oftentimes I wasn't just the only Black person, I was the only non-white person in my classes, many, if not most of the time. So not only was I the only Black, I was the only minority, period, for a lot of the time growing up. And, when you're a kid, you don't understand the complexities of adult things, but what you do understand is that you are different. And I felt very different. I was the only one with brown skin and big curly hair. And at that time, again, things have changed now. But when I was growing up, most Black women had relaxers. So most of the women in my family had relaxers. When I went to church, most of the women there had relaxers. But I have always had big, thick, natural hair. And I had no idea what to do with my hair. And even the other Black women that I was looking at around me, like I said, had relaxers. So not only did I feel different from all the white kids in my classes, I just kind of felt different from everybody. And it was a really long time. I would say probably even into my mid 20s before I really found some security in my identity and just like where I was in the world. But for a very, very long time, I just felt very insecure about the way I looked and about being different. So that was the second thing that kind of changed or that really affected the trajectory of my life, just being different, feeling different, and trying to find that place in the world. Now, even though that can be tough as a kid, I did have something going for me, and that's that I was good at school. So I was good at school. I was that kid in class who, always had the right answers in class. I was that kid who always did the homework, annoying everybody else. So I was good in school. So I did have something that was working to my advantage. So in high school, one day, out of the blue, one of the guidance counselors pulled me out of class. And it wasn't even my guidance counselor. I had no idea who she was. But one day, out of the blue, in high school, she pulls me out of class and takes me to her office. And she sits me down and she just starts asking me questions about myself. And she asks, "Hey, where are you applying to college?" And I told her where I was applying to college. And she said, "Why are you not applying to any Ivy League schools? You have the grades to get into an Ivy League school." And, as a kid, that was something I had fantasized about or something that I had secretly been interested in. But, I'd already talked to my parents. They'd already explained how, out of state schools are a lot more expensive than in-state schools. So I just figured, that's just out of reach. That's just not going to happen for me. And that's why I told the guidance counselor, that's just not, me and my parents have already talked about this. It's just not going to happen for me. And this guidance counselor was like, "Well, you owe it to yourself to apply. You need to apply and find out what happens, find out if you can get some financial aid or something." And shout out to that guidance counselor. If you are on this call and you are an educator or a guidance counselor, shout out to you guys, because that single conversation changed my life. That single conversation changed the trajectory of my life. And I am a person of faith, so I do believe that it was Jesus, making these things happen for me. But I also just really credit that guidance counselor for going out of her way, for talking to a kid who was not even assigned to her and telling me something that I needed to know. So I went home, I talked to my parents, and I applied to several different Ivy League schools. I got into pretty much all of them. I did not get into Harvard. I got waitlisted at Harvard, but I got into Yale. And I didn't just get into Yale, but I also got a scholarship. And it was not a full ride, but it was enough of a scholarship for my parents to be like, "Baby's going to Yale." So I got into Yale. But again, I just really I need to find this guidance counselor because she totally changed what I thought was possible. So, like I said, I ended up going to Yale, graduated from Yale, decided I wanted to go to law school. I applied. This time I got into Harvard Law and ended up going to Harvard for law school. And this was the fourth The fourth thing that shifted the trajectory of my life is that tragedy hit my family in a major way while I was away at law school. While I was in law school, we lost a lot of family members, just one after the other in a pretty short amount of time. And losing so many people, seeing all these people in my family die and die young. Everyone, I can say in my life, pretty much most people that I know who have died young, died before their time. They died in their, in their 40s and their 50s. They were taken before their time. And for me, seeing all of these people in my family die and die young really just amplified this feeling that I was already starting to feel that, like, as a Black woman, no matter how hard I worked, no matter how hard I tried, that the bottom could fall out from under me at any moment. It really just amplified this, I guess the right way to say it would be this fear that I had that, again, no matter how hard I worked or no matter how hard I tried, that it was always possible for the bottom to fall out from under me. And that, at that time really drove me. I kind of was already security oriented. I was kind of already a person who was kind of looking for security, but it amplified that even more. And so when I initially went to law school, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I wanted to help people. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. But after that happened, after losing all of those people, that just kind of shifted things for me. And I was like, I just want security. And I went out and I found the most secure corporate job that I could find. So really, what that meant was that during that time, I actively decided to give up on my dream. I decided to give up on my dream of helping people. And again, I found the most secure corporate job I could find. And I went back to DC, close to home, and started working in corporate law. Now, from the outside, that was the American dream. What could be more the American dream than starting life as the only Black girl in your class in Virginia and ending up working at the fancy, shiny office in downtown DC? So from the outside, I was living the American dream. I mean, what more could you want? Working downtown, working at DC, working at this prestigious law firm, working for all these big multinational corporate clients. I was making $200,000 a year when I was only in my 20s, like more money than my parents could have ever dreamed of making at my age. Just like, stupid amount of money to be making in your 20s. So from the outside, that's the American dream, right? And I thought that, I had this dream, but I thought that I could just kind of give up on that, work this corporate job, pay off my debt, because I had all kinds of crazy debt from law school and from going to school. And that's just what I was going to do. The only problem is that I found out the hard way is that I just am not built like that. I am fundamentally a passionate person. I fundamentally need to do work where I'm actually making a difference and doing something for other people. And that, for me, that job just was not it. And so, yes, I was working on these big cases, and yes, I had these prestigious clients, but just being the lawyer for these large multinational corporations, for me, it just left me feeling completely empty on the inside. I didn't find any meaning in it. I didn't feel like I was making a difference. And to the extent that was making a difference for the average person, it just didn't feel like I was making a good difference. I'm not saying that all corporations are evil. I'm not saying that people who work at corporations are evil, but I'm saying that for me, to the extent that I was making a difference for the average person, I didn't feel like it was a good difference that I was making. And then on top of that, the hours were grueling. I'd get to the office at 10, work until 2 a.m., go to sleep, sleep for a few hours, wake up, do it all over again. I was gaining weight. I was developing all these different health issues. And even though, on one hand, seeing so much tragedy at a young age, on one hand, it did make me crave security. On one hand, it did make me crave what was safe, which was that corporate job. But on the other hand, it also made me realize that, life is really fragile. Life is really short. And you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to be walking down the street and get caught up in a drive-by. Like, you don't know. And so I just really, and to this day, and I don't mean to sound morbid about it, but to this day, I really try to make sure that if I'm ending a conversation with someone I love and care about, I really try to make sure that I always end that conversation by saying, I love you. Because just like what I've seen in my life, what I've experienced is, again, you just don't know if you are promised tomorrow. And so at this time, working this job, I was just, praying, and I was like, God, this just doesn't feel right, but, I don't know what else to do. And I really felt like God was just kind of putting it back on me and saying, what do you want to do? And I had never asked myself that question. I had never considered what I wanted to do in life because, for me, I was like, life is about responsibility. Life is about what you have to do. Life is about, obligation, responsibility, getting it done. It's not about happiness. It's not about, I honestly, that's what I thought. I was like, life is not about being happy. Life is about responsibility. So, feeling like God was saying to me, what do you want to do? I was almost like, what are you talking about? Like, what does that even mean? But, I accepted that challenge. And I started thinking about what would I even want to do in this life? And as I thought about that, I landed on, I want to start a business. I want to go back to my creative roots, and I decided I want to start a production company. So after a lot of prayer and a lot of thought, I decided I'm going to leave my stable, safe corporate law job to start a business. And that was the fifth and last thing that shifted the trajectory of my life. The person who wanted security, the person who wanted to be safe, the person who wanted those things decided to walk away from the secure choice and shoot or shot and start a business. And at that time, I had been planning for a while on leaving the firm. I had been planning to start a business and I had been saving. And so at that time, I had saved up $80,000 to launch my production company. So I sent in my resignation. It's this whole triumphant moment. Look at her. She's leaving her corporate law job. She's starting a business. It was this whole triumphant moment. There was just one problem. And that problem was that was October of 2019. October of 2019. And I had no idea that in just 6 months, a state of emergency was going to be declared and the world was going to shut down. And so at the time it was this big triumphant moment, walking out of the office, see you never. I took a couple months off to just kind of recover. And then I started working on my production company in January of 2020. And by February of 2020, there were already starting to be some whispers of what was going on. And then by March of 2020, state of emergency, the world shut down. And my first business idea was dead on arrival. I was 6 months out of leaving my corporate job and I was already a failure. And that was devastating. I was like, wow, I chose the worst possible time to start a business. And if that wasn't bad enough, I chose the worst possible business to start given what's going on, because this is the worst possible time to be in anything related to live performance. And at that point, I had a choice to make. I could go back to my corporate job with my tail between my legs, or I could pivot. And I decided that I just wasn't ready to quit. So I was like, you know what? The production company, live performance, that's not going to happen in the year 2020. But what I can still do, what I do still have in my hand is my law degree. So Bevel Law launched in May of 2020 out of pure necessity. It was, virtual law firm pivoting into something that would fit the economy at the time. And it launched out of pure necessity. That was, I guess, 3.5 years ago now. And people sometimes ask me why I chose the name Bevel. And it was for 2 reasons. The first reason is because I always have envisioned Bevel being bigger than me. And I've always envisioned, having other attorneys working at the firm. And I wanted to choose a name that one day other people could have ownership over. So that was one reason. And the other reason I chose the name Bevel is because I wanted to trademark it, which is very relevant to what I do today. So I remember just kind of flipping through, looking for uncommon English words. And when I found the word bevel and started looking into what a bevel is, it spoke to me because a bevel is a tool. And I was like, okay, that kind of works because my law firm is a tool. I'm helping my clients achieve their desired result. So that kind of spoke to me. Also, I just liked the way that it sounded. Also, I knew I could trademark it. So I chose the name Bevel Law, and I did go on to trademark it. I am the trademark owner for Bevel Law. And like I said, that was 3.5 years ago. And Bevel has grown from a law firm, a business that I launched out of necessity, to one of the biggest blessings in my life. And I'm so grateful because when I walked out of my corporate job in 2019, I thought that I was walking away from being a lawyer. I thought, okay, this just isn't what I was meant to do. What I didn't know is that I just needed to walk away from someone else's definition of what it means to be a lawyer. I just needed to walk away from somebody else's dream so that I could live my dream. And Bevel, it turns out, is what was completely what I was meant to do. And so now I get to have a business where I help other business owners lock down their intellectual property, protect their trademarks, protect themselves while they are building their business. And it's just been this huge blessing and this huge privilege that I never even could have imagined happening to me, that I never could have planned. And it has been just one of the best things that I have had and do have in my life today. So that is the story of Bevel Law. That is the story of how this law firm came to be. And whether you are a current client or whether you are a prospective client, I hope that that this has been helpful to you in understanding what Bevel is about and why this law firm exists and why it is that I do what I do. And if this spoke to you, if this resonated with you, if you are a business owner that needs to get trademarked, protect yourself, protect your business, protect what you're building, then reach out. I would love to work with you. Send me a DM, schedule a call. I would love to help you protect your business the same way that I've worked so hard to protect my business. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Hope to see you guys next time, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. The Legal Upgrade Podcast is a Bevel Law production. For more information about the Legal Upgrade, you can follow on Instagram at Bevel Law or find even more information on the website bevellaw.com. If you enjoyed the episode, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. See you next time on the Legal Upgrade Podcast.